All right, trying that again. Take two. Okay, so this particular episode is being filmed on December 20th. It is my mother's birthday. So I wanted to say happy birthday, Mom. I love you. I'm so glad that you gave birth to me and raised me to know and love the Lord. And I'm so grateful for that. Um, yeah, words can't even express. I'm so thankful for where our friendship is at, where our relationship was at. And thank you for reading to me. So this episode is all about how to help your child with reading and what to do if your child is below grade level or they don't like to read. Okay, so the first thing I would say always is that whenever you're trying to get your child to do anything, um, it all has to start with relationships. So if you're not doing like a weekly date or a monthly date or a time where without an agenda, without a to-do list, you're just spending time together, then that is always the first place to start. If you're going to try to get anybody to do anything, if you want to influence anyone, it has to start with relationship, and you are your child's first and best teacher. So if you are their caregiver, the parent, then yeah, you're the best one to lead them into that. So start with your relationship with them. How's that going? And plan a date day or a date hour or something sweet. I know a couple of moms who do that really, really well. And every time it improves their relationship with their kid. So even if your kid is just acting up, if you do a date with them, it can really turn things around. So keep that in mind. Okay. If your child is below grade level in school, and you're probably hearing from their teacher, or maybe they're struggling with writing, I would highly suggest, thank you, Kyle, for the like, I would highly suggest audiobooks. This is an easy way for them to fall in love with learning. Easy, easy, easy. And I wanted to let you know there are three main outlets that I go to for great audiobooks. The first is Audible. There's a fee with that, and often they have sales. I've been promoting that the last couple of days, actually. I would also check titles on YouTube. That's free. And LibriVox, spelled LibriVox, LibriVox. That is also free. It's an app you can get on your phone. And most classic books are on LibriVox or on YouTube already for free. There are a few that I love that aren't available. And so I'm actually thinking about when can I record those books and put them on my YouTube channel. So if you have a request, let me know. I'm planning on doing Beatrix Potter's books. If you're not familiar with her, that's a whole nother Facebook Live. And also A.A. Milne's classic original Winnie the Pooh. Those on audio are phenomenal. A.A. Milne especially. Winnie the Pooh is hilarious, and it'll just get your child right into the love of reading, no matter the age. A.A. Milne actually wrote that book. He was an award-winning journalist, and all of his journalistic work has basically been forgotten, but his Winnie the Pooh book is obviously, it's a classic. He wrote it for his son, so we especially love that. Okay, so definitely start listening out loud. Now, I have two sons that have both already graduated from high school. They're 15 and 17 years old. And we would do reading aloud for like 3 hours a day up until last summer. We did, what else do we do? We were always listening. We cut the cable. Like the first year that we were homeschooling, this is really interesting. They were 4 and 6, and they had already had between 2 and 3 years of like group education, so classroom education. And just to be clear, like my kids did private school, they did some preschool, and they also did public school for a semester. So we've been in all arenas, so we know that it can be an uphill battle. But helping your child love to read doesn't have to be an uphill battle. So biggest takeaway, start with audiobooks. If you don't know what to choose, then my advice would be like go on that date with your son or daughter, find out what they're interested in, what they are already thinking about, and then go on Amazon and find a book that fits that category, or reach out to me. I have been homeschooling off and on since 2008, And I have come across some fantastic resources. I have fallen in love with reading. I did not grow up as a homeschooler, but learning the literature approach to education just completely changed my life. And it's just amazing. Like in our fast-paced, crazy world, doing that reading aloud with my family they've been the sweetest memories of my life. And actually we picked out Christmas presents based on what we want to read next as a family. So I'm a little nervous because my son's topics have, they want to read like really scary stuff. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. So maybe they'll just read it without me. We'll see. So anyway, go on a date with your child, find out what they love to read, get a subscription to Audible, or listen to Audible or YouTube or LibriVox. And then if that doesn't start the fever, start the passion for reading aloud, then there's something wrong. Like if you're listening to a LibriVox recording or an Audible book and you guys don't like the voice that's doing the reading, get rid of it. Don't torture yourself. Like if you're torturing yourself, if the book doesn't grab you, or if the voice that's doing the audiobook is bothering you, get a different version of that book. There's so many versions out there. And I know it does take a little bit of effort, but here's the thing, like C.S. Lewis, he talked a lot about reading, and he talked a lot about I want to get this right. Okay, let me get it right. Hold on. The oven's going off. My husband's making food and it's distracting me. Hold on. So what did C.S. Lewis say? Okay, so here's what's happening in my brain right now. I'm picturing C.S. Lewis's house, and he spent a lot of time alone growing up. And what I know about his house is that it was full of books. And maybe you've heard this quote. There were books in every room in the house. There were books. And I've heard it said that the number of books in a child's home is the greatest predictor of the child's future income and other things. And so when you think about books, surrounding yourself with books, even doing advertisements for books. So like when my kids were 6 and 8, we lived in Athens, Tennessee, and there was this fantastic library called the E.G. Fisher Library. And I had gone to Carol Joy Side's seminars. She is my favorite, most wonderful homeschooling expert on the planet. I adore her content. Like, she doesn't waste a word in her seminars. Buy her seminar, get the digital download, you'll get a book list. So the library in East Tennessee had basically every single book that was on Carol's book list. And I felt like I had died and gone to heaven. I was so excited. And so I would go, I rearranged the living room with this idea of surrounding my children with books and even like making book commercials. So we got one of those 8-cube shelves from IKEA, and I turned it on its side, and I made like a room divider. So we had like the living room in one area, it was a big open room, and then we had a dining table in another section. So I used the IKEA bookcase, turned it on its side, and I would prop up like the books that I wanted to quote advertise that week. So whatever we were reading. I remember in the fall, we found this amazing book that was all about the different leaves in our neighborhood. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to know the names of the trees in my neighborhood. This is great. I didn't grow up that way, but like how enriching when you have language to describe what you're seeing. All of a sudden, everything becomes so much more alive and interesting. So we did that, and we read that book together as a family. And so advertise books. Literally, if you looked around if I pan the camera right now, there's like a stack of books on the side table. There's a stack of books next to me. There's a stack of book on the floor. If you go into my room, like I need furniture because my books are everywhere, and my family makes fun of me. So my son got in the car. This was like a week ago, and there's a stack of books on the front seat, right? I had been running errands. I take my books with me, and my son was like, "Mom, you know when Mom's been driving the car because there's a library in the front seat." So anyway, but if your kids are going to love what you love, and so if books are part of what you love, you can actually affect the culture in your home. You know, if every time that you get in the car, the kids know there's an audiobook that's going to go on after 10 minutes of reconnecting and talking about details or whatever you need to be ready for at the next stop. And they just know that you're going to turn on the audiobook. Like, that's awesome. So one of the ways that we made that work was, and this goes into how to teach history, whether or not you're homeschooling. But one of our favorite books that we did, it was actually a 4-volume set called The Story of the World by Susan Wise Bauer. And I could talk for a long time about that. But just if you could get your grandchild one thing, if you could get your child one thing, get them the audio version of The Story of the World. Wait until they're 8 years old. And I say that because it starts with a lot of like, so I'm from a Christian background, so it's really important to me that my kids have that foundation. But Story of the World Volume 1 starts out with ancient Egypt. And you can actually weave that into your Christianity studies, and that's what we did. So we read Exodus at the same time that we were learning about the ancient world. And every time we got in the car, the kids just knew wherever we go, we're going to have the Story of the World on. And it became like this family joke where the kids would imitate the guy who read the audiobook. What was his name? Jim Weiss. And to this day, they still go, The Story of the World. History for the classical child. the Tomb of Tutankhamun. And so, like, that's how Jim Weiss reads. So it's just hilarious. Like, it's shaped our family culture. And we would get dad involved in bedtime. So another way to get your child to love reading is if both mom and dad are involved. So Brian, my husband, he actually read through the story of The Hobbit. He would be so tired. And you have to know, like, he's an auditory learner. I'm a really slow learner. I have to read it, I have to hear it, and I have to do something with it, either write it down or work out the steps that I'm studying. So anyway, so Brian is an auditory learner, and he was a Spanish teacher, and that makes sense because Spanish was so easy for him. But he would read The Hobbit out loud at night to our sons. And I think they've got through it 3 times. It was just such a favorite. And confession, I've never actually read it. But because of how much my boys and my husband loved it, like, I highly recommend that book. So I promised my family it would not be a long Facebook Live tonight, but here's what you need to remember about how to help your child with reading and what to do if your child is below grade level. So you're going to spend some time with them. You're going to find out what they're interested in, then go on Amazon and look for books that have a 5-star review. Then you're going to get it on Audible, and you're going to, I think you need to have a rule in your home that there's at least 1 hour of reading a day. Now, you can break that up however you want it to be, but as long as there are other human beings in your house, as long as you live, you should be reading an hour a day. Now, am I reading an hour a day? No, some days I'll chunk it out. Like, I actually do that for my rest. My personal Sabbath usually includes reading. So anyway, an hour a day of Audible, that's easy to do during commutes between soccer practice and dinner time or whatever. Find a book that your child loves, listen to it on audio, and when you find the right book, you'll know it because they'll say, oh, don't turn it off yet, don't turn it off yet. And you'll find yourself sitting in the driveway listening to just a little bit more of an audiobook, or you'll find that you don't want to take a call because your family is enjoying an audiobook so much, or you're enjoying that time together on the couch. So maybe sometime I'll do a whole talk on how to read out loud with your family, because so many people didn't grow up that way and don't do that, and it has become one of the most wonderful parts of our lives. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you have a wonderful evening wherever you are, and I'm gonna go. I think we're going Christmas shopping tonight. We'll see. So have a great night. Thank you, and please leave any questions or comments you have. Thanks. Bye-bye.